adjustment layers and non-destructive editing. Hey there, let's talk about a different layer type than what we've covered so far. Adjustment layers are a different animal, and they bring up a lot of value in Photoshop. These layer types are added by using this yin-yang looking symbol at the bottom of the Layers panel. As you can see, we have a significant list of options, and each has its own thumbnail, and it applies different changes to your other layers. These apply color and tonal adjustments to your images without modifying their pixels. The term is non-destructive editing. Before we move forward, there's something I want to bring up. Don't confuse adjustment layers with adjustment commands you find under Images, Adjustments. Yes, they look like the same thing, but they work in very different ways. Let me show you by continuing my previous explanation about non-destructive editing. We have a raster image in Photoshop, so it's made of pixels. If we erase or draw over them, we're permanently changing the pixel structure of the image. If we didn't have the undo command, these edits would have been permanent. The same thing happens when you go to Images, Adjustments. Let's choose black and white as an example. A new window appears, but let's just hit OK. Well, the image is now black and white, but the main thing is we can't adjust those settings from that window, nor can we revert to our initial image without using Ctrl-Z. Working like this is not ideal because you're changing the pixel structure of your layer. Otherwise put, you're destroying pixels, and chances are you might not be happy with the outcome. Working efficiently in Photoshop is about giving yourself options, leaving room to change your mind. These tools don't allow you to do that. Adjustment layers work non-destructively. That means we can go to this panel and add a black and white adjustment layer. As you can see, the image immediately changes, but note the difference. If we don't like it, we can just hide it in our Layers panel, so we give ourselves options. We can experiment with many things, but if we don't like them, that's fine because we changed no pixels. We're working a layer above our image. Plus, this Properties panel just popped up, and it gives us a whole load of options we can change on the fly. So again, by working with adjustment layers, we're working non-destructively. We're preserving layers, we're giving ourselves options. Each of these adjustment layers add a lot to the table. We can change the brightness and the contrast, for example. We can lower them by -50 and see how our design changes. This is the true power of Photoshop, its versatility. I invite you to explore all these adjustment layer types by adding them to this image. You have the PSD file attached. If you don't see the Properties panel show up, just double-click its thumbnail. One of my favorites is Hue and Saturation. By using these sliders, you can dramatically change your composition into something else. As you see here, you have many options to choose from. Plus, if you check the Colorize option, you can modify it even further. So this is a great way of exploring various options without making permanent changes. Regarding all these adjustment layers, you have to know they affect everything underneath them in the Layers panel. Let me exemplify. I'll add a black and white adjustment layer just above my graphic. It becomes black and white. Now I'll add a rectangle above it, and I'll make it red. See how this works? By placing the rectangle above the adjustment layer, we're no longer under its effect. If I swap places, you'll see it will now become desaturated. This happens even if we create a group for the graphic layer. As long as it's underneath the adjustment layer, it will be affected. So sometimes this might be great. You can change an entire project with hundreds of layers by adding an adjustment at the very top of the Layers panel. There might be cases where you want to target an area or a layer specifically. How can you do that with precision? The best option is to use a clipping mask. Let me illustrate what that does. I'll move the black and white layer above my rectangle. Now I'll use Ctrl-Alt-G. This creates a clipping mask, and now the effect is applied only for that layer. So it constrains the effect to only that particular layer or group. We'll have a dedicated lecture about the clipping mask later in the course. Okay, you have this PSD file attached, so download it and experiment with several adjustment layers and clipping masks. Have fun!